Hey everyone and welcome to today's video, and we finally have some news regarding the next Mass Effect game directly from BioWare themselves, so let's get straight into it.
Lockhart QT.
In terms of the BioWare news update, Mass Effect 5 pre-production is still ongoing, and there's been officially confirmed by BioWare now again, but BioWare have now said that the next entry in the Mass Effect series is already bringing the deep franchise history forward in a spectacular new way. This update comes from the latest BioWare online update statement made by BioWare's own general manager, Gary McKay. You may have heard of him in my previous videos, regarding the future of Star Wars: The Old Republic, the online MMORPG which the studio has now officially confirmed is being passed to developer Broadsword. So essentially BioWare is being taken off Star Wars: The Old Republic and being essentially split in half onto the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect games. If you guys remember, I covered this in way more detail and covered this news earlier this month, as back then it was just rumoured, but now the update has officially been confirmed by BioWare themselves. If you guys want to go and watch that video, it's on the channel. I really recommend doing so. I go into it more in detail there, but let's carry on. BioWare also gave the following statement: "We will have a renewed focus on our two key franchises, Dragon Age and Mass Effect," and offered a brief update onto its goals from both Dreadwolf and Mass Effect 5. In terms of Dragon Age Dreadwolf, we had the following information. For Dragon Age, we continue to build, polish and tune an exceptional experience we know our fans will love. Gary McKay also finally gives us a brief update on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, giving us the first official word of mouth on Dragon Age 4/Dreadwolf since EA's indirect confirmation that earlier this year that it's at least 1 year away, plus we have leaks from several insiders that have been pretty much true and confirmed, including the gameplay one, which I'll go into later in detail, but we also have the confirmation from some insiders that they believe it's coming out around summer to late spring 2024, which makes a lot of sense. And like I said, if you all remember, we had the recent-ish leaks showing concept art, locations, story info, character info, as well as full gameplay segments in video. These were 100% confirmed because BioWare and EA essentially went online and just nuked these from the internet. You can still find them though, if you want to look for them. I'm not going to have them in this video to avoid spoilers and the leaks, so I don't want to get into that. I don't want this video taken down. But instead of the party system from the old Dragon Age games, Dreadwolf will now feature a hack and slash style combat that won't let you switch between party members, similar to 2018's God of War, which was actually the inspiration for Dreadwolf's combat system, and will feature a deeper focus on narrative, which is all great news in my opinion. So, getting on to the more sort of juicy information for me personally, being Mass Effect 5. Gary also said, "For Mass Effect, we continue pre-production with a core team of veteran storytellers who are bringing the deep franchise history forward in a spectacular new way." If you all remember, we also heard similar sounding quotes from BioWare back in November 2022 during N7 Day, with a blog post from EA telling fans that pre-production development is proceeding very well. Just 1 month earlier, Gary McKay explained that the team is still envisioning for what the future actually holds for the new single-player Mass Effect game, confirming that the game is single player only. It may have a multiplayer component, but I think it will be very minor. Since N7 Day, however, we've heard very little from BioWare on both Mass Effect 5 and Dragon Age Dreadwolf, but Gary McKay's latest comments on a fresh approach to the lore and history of the franchise do raise several eyebrows and red flags here. This could either be an amazing step forward for the series, or could be a risky new title that could retcon things, or worse, in my opinion, remake them. Personally, I don't think this is going to be a remake of Mass Effect in any way, shape or form, but in terms of retconning, this will be really interesting because BioWare now have a really rabbit hole to get out of in terms of storytelling, because they had 4 possible endings to the ending of Mass Effect 3, plus you have to incorporate Andromeda into that as well, and they have to essentially write for that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how on earth they get out of that. In terms of the new game's story and development, personally I don't think this is what BioWare means at all. I don't think they're going to remake the game at all. I do think they may retcon a few things, but I think it will only be minor things. I know BioWare, they know how much Mass Effect means to its player base, and they've now got the most interesting position to be in development-wise. They have 3 options for the new title in my opinion. Option 1. Mass Effect 5 takes place right after the ending of Mass Effect 3, or, a few years after, and follows the adventures of the Normandy crew and Shepard, or a new protagonist. I think this is the most likely, as we've obviously seen Liara in the both bits of actual footage we've seen of the game so far, in terms of the CGI reveal trailer and the secret transmission from N7 Day. We know Liara's in the game, and we've also had the date from the secret transmission, which sort of hints at the game being 3 to 4 years after Mass Effect 3, but again we'll have to wait and see. Option 2 is Mass Effect 5/Mass Effect 4 is a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda, taking place after the events of Mass Effect Andromeda. Although the majority of the player base and fan base don't want this, I think this would be really interesting, as although the game is the worst Mass Effect game by a mile, there is so much wasted potential, or potential that was not yet realised in Andromeda in my opinion. And obviously BioWare would have to go back and make several changes, but I do think that Andromeda would still make a great galaxy, because there's so much yet to be unexplored. Or we have option 3. The new game is actually not a numbered Mass Effect, but a new subtitle, following the new crew in a far-flung future in either Andromeda or the Milky Way, and not featuring many of the old characters apart from Liara, as she's an Asari and can age. She can live for a hell of a long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. Who we know is obviously returning, like I said, from the trailer and the secret transmission footage. This would give Mass Effect another fresh start, allowing new players with a new entry point into the series, whilst also giving old fans something new to explore and play. I think this would be the most interesting option, because we could see the Milky Way and Andromeda sort of in the future, and see the changes that, the choices that we made in those games sort of impact the far future. What would the future of the Mass Effect galaxy be like if the Krogan genophage was cured, or if the Rachni were allowed to live, for example? These choices that we've made in the original trilogy and Andromeda will come to fruit in this new title being hundreds of years in the future. Now, with how the games connect, because this has actually been hinted at by BioWare in terms of Andromeda and the Milky Way somehow connecting, we'll have to wait and see. Although for now we can only speculate as to how Mass Effect 5 may explore the rich universe differently. You all have to remember we haven't properly seen Mass Effect 5 in any way, shape or form since all of the concept artwork revealed for N7 Day back in 2022, along with the secret transmission, which obviously caused us all as fans to speculate on how many hidden details there were, Easter eggs, and sort of go on to wild fan fiction speculation, which obviously we don't want at this point, and we want concrete information from BioWare, which I don't think we're going to get. It's still really bugging me how little info and updates we've had from BioWare regarding the next game in terms of information. Obviously BioWare have their focus more so on Dragon Age Dreadwolf at the moment, and I do think that either during Gamescom or the Game Awards we'll see a trailer for Dreadwolf and maybe another little tiny teaser for Mass Effect 5. We definitely know that the next time we'll see the next Mass Effect game will be at N7 Day, but in terms of what, we don't know. Personally, I think we'll just get another blog post with maybe some artwork and maybe a little snippet of Liara, for example. But in terms of information within the next 4 months, I think that sadly we'll just have to keep getting small bite-sized developer updates from BioWare like we have been, and like this video. I think that we'll just keep getting small updates in the next 4 or 5 months, basically just saying, yes, the game is still in development, yes, we're still working on it. I do think that having the increased development number and development team numbers actually with the actual manpower working on this game is good. It's sad for people who are, into Star Wars The Old Republic, but sadly, if I'm being realistic, I think BioWare should really prioritise Dreadwolf and ME5, because those are going to be their 2 priorities for the time being. I really think that Mass Effect 5 in terms of release date is probably looking at 2026. I've talked about this in previous videos, but this makes me really sad because I'd very much like the game now, I'd like it in my hands, and I really want to play it. But if the past has taught us anything, I'd like BioWare to return to form with both Dragon Age and Mass Effect, by returning to what us fans know and like and want. I think that if BioWare bring back the classic style of Mass Effect gameplay and the level of storytelling that was in the original trilogy, whilst also incorporating changes and modernised features that the series had in titles such as Andromeda, for example. I loved that game's combat system and flow and general sort of movement, and I think that if they brought all of that into the next game, it would be great. But if they also incorporated everything that they've learned in terms of missteps from both Andromeda and Anthem, I think we could definitely have another amazing entry in the series on our hands here. BioWare, if you remember, are an amazingly talented game development studio with some developers, artists, voice actors, all the rest of it that are just amazing people who are great at what they do. With lots of older developers also who worked on the original trilogy also returning, I think this will be a major turning point for both franchises in terms of Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and tell me in the comments below, what do you think about the recent developer updates we've had from BioWare, and what do you think about where the next game is heading? Do you think that a leap forward for the franchise? What do you guys think that means? Thank you all so much for watching today, and apologies for the delay as I've just recently returned from holiday in Barcelona, in which I had a great time and had a much needed break. But I'm back now, and for more videos on Mass Effect and gaming in general, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.